Are you working in a multicultural organization and need to get ahead? Well, here's 3 tips to help you do just that. Many people have asked me about succeeding working in a cross-cultural organization, and in particular in a culture that's not their own. Well, I've been working in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia for the past 19 years, and I've been involved in management for the past 18 years. I can tell you without a shadow of a doubt that the key to succeeding is understanding the culture. Now, when we speak about culture, I want to make clear that we're speaking in general terms. Of course, there are exceptions to every norm. I'm not criticizing any particular culture or saying that one is better than the other. I'm simply giving observations based on my experience that I think will be of value to you. So let's get started. Tip number 1, demonstrate respect for authority. Now that would seem obvious in all contexts, but let me explain what I mean when considering that in the context of Saudi Arabia. Note that I said demonstrate respect for authority. I didn't say respect for authority. That should be a given. But the point that I'm highlighting here is to demonstrate respect for authority. Now, here's an example of the need to demonstrate respect for authority. An email goes out to all staff in an organization to attend with an external speaker. Now, it became clear that this lecture was intended for Arabic speakers. The entire thing was delivered in the Arabic language. So myself and the rest of the Western members of staff sat there and listened, not really understanding very much. In fact, some of us didn't understand anything at all. So, after about an hour and a half, a group of Westerners left the auditorium. They didn't think there was anything wrong with that. I think when I spoke to them afterwards, they indicated that they knew it was a little bit on the dodgy side, but generally speaking, they didn't think it would be a big deal. After all, they'd been sitting there for an hour and a half listening to this lecture in Arabic with no sign of it finishing anytime soon. They didn't think it would be a big thing. In fact, it turned out to be just that. Let me explain. By leaving early, they didn't demonstrate respect for authority. You see, Saudi Arabia has what's called a high power distance rating. That essentially means, by people who have looked into and studied culture, like Hofstede, for example, a high power distance means that there's a wide distance between those who have power and those who don't, which means the people at the top expect to be listened to and their instructions followed to the letter, and generally speaking, the subordinates underneath expect to have to follow the directions that are given to them to the letter. When you walk out before the end of the lecture, you're showing an open disrespect for the request that was made of you. And this, here in Saudi Arabia, is not a small thing. It's a very big thing. Another issue connected to what took place is that in Saudi Arabia, there's a very strong emphasis on accepting the invitation. When you're given an invitation here in Saudi Arabia, as much as you're able to, you should accept that invitation. To not do so is seen as possibly being disrespectful to the one offering the invite. Now, at work, when told to go somewhere by the head of the organization, the CEO, the director, when you're told to go there, it's not seen just simply as an order to go there. It's actually seen as an invitation, i.e. you are there at the invitation of the CEO, you're there at the invitation of the director, and therefore to not go or to leave early is again seen as not demonstrating respect for the invitation nor for the one who invited you. So these things can be gone into in greater detail in another video, but for now it's enough to know that it's very important to be constantly trying to demonstrate your respect and your understanding for the culture that you're working in. Tip number 2, disagree without offending. Disagreement is normal and inevitable. You can always discuss in public, as much as possible advise in private. But when you have to disagree in a meeting, in a group setting, make sure to do it in a way that causes no offense. Let me give you some examples. When you're in a meeting and you hear something that you need to disagree with, how about saying something like this? You make a valid point, and I wonder if, and at that point, you put your suggestion. By having said something positive at the very beginning of what you had to say, the person's defenses will not be up, they'll be down, and they may well be accepting of what it is that you have to say. But if you go in straight away and disagree, that's often not advisable. Here's another way of doing it. That's an interesting angle. Would it also be worthwhile looking at it from, and then you say what you need to say. I see the point you're making. I wonder if also, these are phrases that I've used over the years and continue to use. An outsider could think to themselves, it's a little bit over the top. Why do you need to just preempt what you want to say with these type of expressions? Well, all I can tell you is that I found in my experience, it's very easy to upset, offend, or misunderstand people whose language is not the same as your first language. Here in Saudi Arabia, the first language of people is Arabic. English is often their second language. Mistakes, misunderstandings, and offense can easily take place without realizing. So tread carefully, preempt what you want to say when you're going to disagree with these soft phrases here, and I'm sure it will pay dividends. Tip number 3, propose changes in stages. Research shows that the culture of Saudi Arabia has a high uncertainty avoidance. Put another way, their culture is risk adverse. They don't like the unknown. They like certainty. They like to know what the outcome will be of things that they're doing, or more importantly, things that outsiders are doing. A project manager that I know who works for one of the largest organizations here in Saudi Arabia told me about a time when he tried to put forward a new initiative. It was a massive plan, a really, really well thought out plan, but it didn't get anywhere. He was just told no. Without going into too much detail, after having a discussion with him, it was clear that there were issues at play that were larger than just simply, was it a good idea or not? There was no question about it being a good idea, but why wasn't it accepted? We thought that maybe one of the reasons was it was just too much, too quickly. So after some coaching, he went back to the organization, but this time he proposed effectively the same initiative, but in bite-sized chunks. So there was stage 1, and if they were happy with stage 1, and that got approval, okay, let's move to stage 2. Then if that went well, move to stage 3 with clear KPIs along the way, but it was the same initiative, but in bite-sized chunks. So remember, demonstrate respect for authority, disagree without offending, and see your initiatives get pushed through by presenting change in chunks. Thank you very much for watching this video. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button as well as turn on notifications. And if you liked the video today and you got value from it, please do leave me a comment below. Let me know what you'd like to see in future videos. I look forward to seeing you on the next episode. Remember, don't complain, elevate your game.